Hi, everyone, and welcome to our October class inside the Living on Lemonade community. Today's or this month's topic is grounding. The class is called Grounded. And I'll be honest, I've been very resistant to making the notes and reading in detail and like memorizing the stuff from this book that was kind of the inspiration for this topic. It's called The Earth Prescription. If you're not watching on video, if you're listening on the podcast, it's by Laura Koniver, a medical doctor, and it's called The Earth Prescription. I'll put the name in the show notes as well. I've had this in my collection for a while. So part of my way of kind of motivating myself a little bit to read some of my books is choosing topics that I have some books that I can kind of reference. And I did kind of read through some of it. I'll make reference to just because this stuff specifically, like the science behind it, isn't really in my wheelhouse too much yet because it's new to me. So that kind of made me think about how delivering trainings, doing it in this way isn't as powerful because you're kind of just regurgitating information and it's just kind of coming in and then out your mouth. It doesn't have that like charge to it. Whereas the rest of the conversation that we'll have tonight is very much from an embodied experience. And there's so much power when we can deliver messages and trainings and teachings from our own, when we've taken experiences and wisdom and learning and actually like really embodied it, taken it through kind of our body and just fully embraced it. And we have like the full understanding of it so we can really just talk about it openly. There's so much power to that. However, I'm not going to make it wrong delivering some of the information from the book because it is super awesome and I wanted to share some of it with you. So before we really dive in, let's take a few deep breaths, kind of ground into our body since we're talking about grounding today. Check in with yourself. Notice, like take a little bit of an inventory. Where are you on a scale of 1 to 10 stress-wise? Take note of that and then take a few deep breaths. You can hold it at the top if you want. Make sure that exhale is longer than the inhale. Eyes closed, eyes open if it feels safe. Hand or hands over heart if you want a little bit of extra somatic body support. You can breathe in your nose, or out your mouth if you need a bit of an extra body like feeling sigh. Feel those shoulders drop. Unclench that jaw if it is. Notice if it is. Notice if your tongue's sitting on the roof of your mouth. Drop it back down. These are all signs that we're a little bit stressed out, even if we're not really conscious of it. So these are those subtleties in our body. So we're going to come back into our body, get out of our monkey mind, whatever the day has delivered us, and just take a moment to take an inventory of your body and where you're at in this moment. Breathe into your belly, finishing with your chest, and then breathe out the opposite. Bring in that energy and nourishment to massage your organs. You can keep going with the breaths if you want, however long you need to. And then when you feel like you're good, check in with yourself again. Where are you on that scale of 1 to 10? Have you come down? Have you noticed that your breath rate has slowed down? Your heart rate maybe has slowed down. Your breaths are deeper, not shallow. So, grounding. This book has been this book, The Earth Prescription, has been enlightening in a different way. It's really interesting because it talks about like specifically grounding to the earth, which is really cool. Previous to, and I'm familiar with the term and stuff, and if you saw the post in the Living on Lemonade community, there was a post that compares grounding to earthing. And same idea. Earthing is just like specifically with the earth. So like standing bare feet with the bare feet on the grass, and connecting to like hands on a tree that is also grounded to the earth. Um, I'll use grounding as kind of the general word. But a lot of it will have to do with the actual, like, I guess technically earthing or whatever, but I'll use grounding as kind of the general term for this training. Now, when I think about grounding, I do think about collaborating or being in sync with the earth, but it also makes me think about just taking time, like grounding in terms of connecting back with the present moment and being present in your body and connecting with the nature of who we are and our sensations and kind of connecting with nature that way. So not necessarily specifically like the ground or a tree or, like actually like touching nature, but connecting with our senses because we are nature, right? We're like stardust. We are, in my belief system, an extension of the divine force that has created all there is. And in this society, this Western culture, we're so disconnected from that. We're so disconnected. We have this, many of us, especially if we work a corporate job, we're on this clock and this timeline, and often it doesn't honor our own biology and circadian rhythm. You look at the schooling system, children that are younger tend to have an earlier, like they have more energy in the morning. So really school should be earlier for them and finishing earlier. And they need more, or they need an earlier bedtime. Teenagers, actually their circadian rhythm shifts a little bit. So they actually, what would benefit them the most is to go to bed a little later. And this is why if you're a parent to a teenager, or have parented teenagers, probably had a really hard time getting them to actually go to bed at a decent time. It's not just them rebelling, it's actually their biology. So we live in this society that really is not structured to honor our own biology, our own physiology, to be healthy, and sustained and just thriving. When we think about how we prefer to live in a controlled environment in terms of like temperature, air temperature, we put the heat on in the winter, the air conditioning on in the summer. We like to have this comfortable temperature, but we don't give our body any sort of challenge, right? And then we wonder why we're so like anxious and have we lack resiliency. Um, and even the fact that we put shoes on every day and we're not actually connecting with the energy of the earth. We're keeping like rubber in between us and the earth. When we think about our own biology, there's a whole lot of electricity and conductivity going on in our body, right? Think about our brain. Our brain works and functions on electrical signals bouncing around in our brain, synapses and pathways, and and the more we repeat our patterns, the more kind of defined those pathways become. And like that's a whole other topic when it comes time to talk about like mindset and actually changing belief systems and stuff like that. But essentially, like our brain just wants to work optimally, but it needs electricity. It needs those like that conductivity so that our brain can function properly. It can have all those signals going where it needs to. Heart's the same way, right? We have heart issues, a defibrillator is designed to shock the heart, so then the heart can figure out its own rhythm again and get back into normal rhythm, right? You can't shock a heart that's not beating. The shows that you watch, that's not correct. You can't, when they're flatline, it doesn't work. There has to be some sort of electrical signal going through the heart. So we have all this like energy going through our body. We need those like those signals and the conductivity in our digestive tract to move food through our digestive tract and break it down. Like our entire body thrives on it. Cell reproduction, cell development, and just the processes, enzymes takes energy. So we have all of this energy moving around us, and there's factors which I'm just brushing the surface on my understanding of it. So obviously I'm not going to go deeper than I can understand. But when we think about, I went into meditation and was kind of like, hey, what do I need to know here? And really what was coming to me was we've got all this energy inside us and it's moving around doing all these things. And if we, as we do in normal society, we're wearing shoes, we get disconnected from the earth. We can think of earth as like I think the book described it as like a docking station. And they were talking more about grounding our own energy into the earth, but I believe too that we can also charge with the energy of the earth, right? When we feel depleted, we can connect back with the energy of the earth and get the charge that we need, and we can discharge the extra energy that we have. Maybe I kind of saw it in my mind as when we get stressed up, we're building that charge in our body and it needs to be discharged somehow. It needs to be neutralized a little bit. Otherwise, we just have all this stuff going around and our body doesn't function as optimally that way. We need to have that beautiful balance, and grounding or earthing is one way to do it, through literally connecting with the ground. Now I'm going to kind of flip through this book and I have a few things kind of dog-eared and highlighted. One of the sentences here says, because the body is electrically conductive, the heartbeat, brain impulses, breathing mechanism, that too, and digestion all rely on intrinsic electrical signals. To protect the body throughout our lifetime, we must establish and nurture a healthy conductivity. So we have to be able to have a source that it can be discharged and replenished. And I also read here and highlighted, we are forcing our bodies to act as a closed loop, disconnected from the earth. If you think of all of that conductivity going around in our body, we need to be able to ground it. Also here, touching the earth immediately affects the conductivity of the entire body, supporting the healthy functions of heart, circulatory system, brain, bone, metabolism, thyroid, adrenals, and skin, the entire body. Now there's a list here of some of the benefits. With grounding, blood viscosity decreases, blood pressure normalizes, brainwave patterns relax, muscle tension drops, pain lifts, and mood lightens. Because grounding immediately improves cardiovascular function, every organ system gets a boost of blood flow and oxygen. So this helps over time for hormones to normalize. Cortisol, which is a stress hormone, can drop. Blood sugar stabilizes, sleep deepens, inflammation decreases, the body can heal. Our immune system gets a boost as a result of that. You would think even just in terms of if your cortisol is going down and you're getting more into that rest and digest, your body's going to work more optimally, your immune system's stronger. And yeah, grounding supports your metabolic function as a whole, that because it helps to bring our body back into that rest and digest, that parasympathetic state. A couple other things here that I really liked. It says, without grounding, we can feel wired, frazzled, unsupported, depressed, and anxious. With the earth firmly anchoring our body, relieving inflammation, stabilizing hormones, and supporting our organ functions, our life journey becomes deeper and more meaningful, filled with inspiration and power. This also kind of goes into the reference to a concept I've been thinking a lot about over the last few months, and especially more lately. Yeah, I've just been very contemplative, very curious, and figuring out my own way of like how I see the world in this experience. And the best way I can describe it, this is my belief system. If it doesn't jive with you, then that's okay. Take what you want, leave the rest, always, right? If you're curious about it, dive in. I see us as two parts. We are made of two parts. We are a soul that comes from somewhere, some sort of, we're connected back to all that is, whether you call that God, source, universe, whatever that looks like. And then we're human too, right? We have this meat suit. I call it a meat suit. So we're this soul, we're this source of life, this pure joy and love. And we're in this body, this meat suit. And I call this experience Earth School. We come here for our soul to grow through having this experience in our body. Now, the challenge here in the game, I had this like understanding, or just, I don't know, just this deep, yeah, like a deep understanding after my dad died, when I was really going through it, that like, oh my God, this like life is like a video game. It's this almost almost like a simulation, or yeah, I don't know. I don't know a better way to explain it. I know that sounds very like sci-fi, but I just see it as this opportunity. We all come in, we have like our dynamics, and we have these lessons that we want to learn, and our soul comes here because it wants to grow, and it wants to go through these challenges that the physical body and just our humanness allows it to have, because really like being human is not easy, right? I think hopefully we can all relate to that in certain ways. And we have like our physiology, and to me the whole human experience is just, it's like this survival thing. And we have to, we like we develop these survival patterns through the early years, and then especially, and then later too, we can add on survival patterns based on experiences that we have. If we have a difficult experience that we need to survive and acquire a survival pattern in order to get through it, that's the way our body deals with it. And like, that's good, that's a good thing, it gets us through it. However, it's not going to serve us in the long term. It served us through that season. So we have this build up, this what's the word I want to use? Collection of all these survival skills and beliefs that we inherit from our parents and the people that we most influence us in those early days. Because essentially I see our brain as like a computer that's blank when we first come here. And just like in nature, when you look at um shows in the wild, and you see like babies, like cubs, mimicking and observing their mother, it's the same way in our own human way. And we're observing the people around us, we're taking in their belief systems, and we, because our brain isn't fully developed, we can oftentimes develop what we see as truths, really their beliefs, but we end up with like this whole, can feel like a little bit of a mess. It's kind of dense. And we have to, I feel like I'm on a tangent, but there's somewhere that I need to go with this. We then, the soul journey, and all it wants to do this whole time is just grow. But we have all these things like holding us back. And the way that society works now doesn't really honor it because we're so disconnected from our own nature and our own innate wisdom. We're disconnected from our souls, from our intuition, from that like inner voice that wants to lead us to the expansion that our body's like, nah, our human is afraid of. But that's part of the game. We get to these places where it's like, ooh, that feels like our soul is excited about it, but excitement can also turn into fear when our our human is like, no, we don't like that because it feels unsafe. And that's going to be like a whole different other topic. Either I don't know if it's going to be a monthly class or it's going to be part of a next program that I put together. I'm still kind of like it's what's the word? I keep losing my words, but it's when you put a steak in like juice and stuff, it's just like marinating. Anyway, grounding, the way that I see it, is it gives us this opportunity to connect back, like take care of our human. So we have to do that in order to stay alive. Our human is about survival, but it allows us to have access and to access those deeper parts of ourselves, that soul. It allows us to access that wisdom, that intuition, that intuitive voice, those nudges, those downloads. Um, the other thing on a surface level, so like I also see it in like kind of two ways. Grounding, when you think about if we're just doing breath work like we did at the beginning of the class, or other grounding techniques, orienting to your environment, um, yeah, taking a few deep breaths, however that looks, doing a couple yoga poses if it feels empowering and grounding. Um, if you're standing tall and imagining roots coming out of your feet and into the earth, and you can use it on the surface level like all day long. You can use it as a band-aid if you have anxiety, if you feel anxious or you have anxiety or you're stressed out or you're feeling depressed. You can use it to kind of ground in the moment. But what I'm kind of realizing as I'm taking my own work deeper and having deeper understandings and embodying this wisdom that I'm kind of coming into and getting ready to teach on a deeper level is so many of these tools on our, soul care tool belt or soul tool belt, they we can choose to just use them as band-aids on the surface level of whatever's deeper. But I encourage you, especially if you want to take this work deeper, you feel like you're here for more. And you don't want to just survive. You don't want to just use these tools to survive and get through your day. You want to use these tools to really like get deeper and get to the root of why you're feeling this way in the first place, because I truly believe that anxiety and just what we feel as difficult emotions because they're uncomfortable, they're messengers. This is like, these are the things that our soul set us up for, especially if we're like not on the path that our soul wants us to go and to grow with. If we're avoiding it or whatever, we get off the path sometimes. I truly like, in my own experience, when my soul's off the path, yeah, of course I feel depressed because like I'm not growing in a way that just like nourishes me on this deep, deep level, this soul level. So that manifests as depression. It manifests as anxiety because I'm like, oh my God, I'm not where I like where my soul wants to go. And I can ground in the moment and treat it as a band-aid, or I can use this as an opportunity to take it deeper and really consider and get curious and look at like, what am I looking at here? Why do I feel so anxious? Is this just in the moment because I'm about to try something new that's scary and I just kind of need to ground myself so I can take that next step? In that case, I don't really see it as a band-aid because you're supporting yourself so that you can move, your soul can move forward with you. Or am I, just give me 1 second. Sometimes we just need a breath, eh? Am I using this to bypass my own human experience because what I'm feeling is uncomfortable and is a cause of me not living an authentic life that my soul chose for me? Or am I using this to dive deeper and to actually heal whatever's underneath? You think of like if we have a wound, are we just slapping it on in the moment because we're uncomfortable and we just got to get through the day and we're just like gonna breathe so then we can survive essentially? Are we doing it for our human or are we doing it for our soul? I hope that makes sense. And I choose now to use these tools for my soul, to actually create the space when we think of physiologically, and I talk about this all the time. But when we're stressed out, our prefrontal cortex goes offline. So we don't have access. And truthfully, if we're going deeper to really see like what's actually happening here, where in my life am I not showing up authentically? Where in my life am I not honoring myself? Where am I not respecting myself? Where am I not loving myself? Where am I not setting boundaries for myself? Those are those deeper questions. And using grounding and having it as a way of life helps you to get back into your body so your mind's not running because the mind's part of the human. And it allows you to really like sink in and actually get the wisdom from your heart, from your soul, from that like soul space, which to me lives in the heart. Wherever that is for you is wonderful. So, but just sinking in and actually getting the answers, getting the wisdom of the deeper thing that's going on in your life. It's more than just like an in this moment thing. It's the difference between survival, like survive or thrive. If you want to survive, you'll put the band-aid on for now and get through the day. If you want to thrive, you're going to use it to create space to get quiet, to lean in, and to see what's actually there underneath the depths. You're actually like whatever wound you're trying to um deal with. Are you just throwing a band-aid on top? Band-aids, 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 or are you actually healing it from inside? You're actually getting to the root of it and healing it and kind of dispersing it. Anyway, I totally just went on an entire tangent. I do have notes here. I was looking at the back of this book and Tracy, if you do listen to this, you were talking about hesitation about or like grounding, putting your feet in grass because of ticks. Now, in this book, it talks about cedar oil. It says it will deter ticks and other bugs. Use liberally on all exposed areas of your skin to deter tick bites. And then of course, just like keeping your like maybe wear long pants and stuff and have them like tighter cuffs at the bottom, right? But anyway, that's just like a random shout out to Tracy because you had asked a question or you had made a comment about that, so I wanted to address it. Now I'm gonna take a look at my notes. We're doing okay. Notes here I've written, we require grounding to live optimally in multiple ways, right? The benefits of grounding are immediate. The earth is our docking station. It's like a port that we plug into both to discharge the excess that we have, excess energy, excess charge, and also to replenish ourselves. Anytime that I teach or do intuitive work, if I'm doing like an intuitive reading or like a mediumship, if I'm kind of connecting on different levels, I always start with grounding. I ground my energy and I do it through visualization because there's so many studies and it's proven that our mind is as powerful as sometimes doing, right? When you look at athletes and how they can practice that perfect shot in their mind over and over and over and have similar results as actually practicing it physically over and over. Same with like, say they're playing an instrument or something and they can visualize it in their mind. It's just a very powerful thing. So I always start any intuitive practice if I want to sink into that deeper wisdom and really get some beautiful answers or see what's coming up. I always ground first. So I sit flat. I visualize roots growing out from the end of my tailbone down into the earth and really like reaching down and wrapping around the core of the earth, and then sending beautiful earth energy up into my heart center and just grounding me that way. And then if I'm doing intuitive work, I do like white light down through my crown chakra, the top of my head, down into my earth or down into my heart, and it mixing. But if you can't get out and actually like touch the earth and stuff, try the visualization. It's super, super effective. Um, some more of my notes. Every cell requires conductivity to function. I mentioned that earlier. And yeah, grounding to connect back to nature, both internally and externally. So where I kind of wanted to go with that is we can do it externally through like putting our bare feet in grass and walking around. Concrete's another option. Just make sure that it's not um varnished or sealed, because concrete's very porous, so it actually is a conductor to the earth. If you're just like in a basement and it's not sealed, you'll still have connection to the earth. You can go out into your garage. It's just if it's sealed, then it's not porous. You're not getting that same result, right? So if it's winter time and you can't go out and put your feet in the snow, if you've got snow or whatever, if it's too cold, you could go into your garage. Still going to be really cold on that concrete, but you could probably do it for a few seconds or whatever, right? What else do we have here? And then just for me, like internally, I guess, okay, there's a little bit of a mix here. Sometimes when I think of grounding in nature, I also think of like my senses. What am I seeing? And how can I look around and make myself feel safe in that moment based on my surroundings? That's for my human. What am I smelling? What kind of like experience or maybe nostalgia is that evoking, keeping me in that present moment and having this maybe feelings of joy or reminiscing? What can I touch physically that's around me? Maybe I've got some shells over on my desk. That's a piece of nature, right? I'm not outside, but I can connect with nature that way. Got lots of rocks, that's for sure. Tons of crystals, lots of rocks I've collected. Rocks are also conductors. Um, just think of your five senses and how you can connect to them in those moments to keep you in the present moment. And grounding also, it helps to, on a human level, build our nervous system capacity and resiliency, because we are training our body in those moments to feel safe, reassuring our body that it's safe. And that helps with our resiliency. That helps to kind of diffuse some of the stress that we might have and build up that nervous system capacity, especially if it's kind of a regular practice and you use it really just mindfully throughout the day and you have different ways to just integrate it into your day. And yeah, so I also wanted to mention some grounding practices that I thought were really lovely, and they came from the book The Earth Prescription. First one, of course, walking barefoot, connecting with water. Now, hands up if you're super drawn to water as well. Water is very conductive, as we know. Our body's like, what, 70% water? So when we think about it, just like that. And especially if it's like a natural body of water or a pool that has a concrete bottom, that's also conductive. Water is therefore grounded to the earth through like just by having ground as the bottom, if it's a lake or whatever, or concrete if it's a pool. And especially if it's like a saltwater pool or whatever, it has like minerals and stuff. So there's benefits that way. And it does help to ground your body and just kind of neutralize it. I feel so I don't think I ever feel more relaxed than when I'm floating on my back in water. Honestly, when I swim lengths, it is like my favorite part is afterward, just spending like 5 minutes floating on my back, like stretching, doing little twists, and just really like taking it in. There's more science to it. I'm not going to get into it because I'm not familiar enough that I really want to try and regurgitate it because I don't know if I'll make enough sense, but I was just reading up on it. It's like really cool. So if you're interested in the topic, do some of your own research and dive into why water is grounding. But when you think about it, just like interacting with the water in our own body and kind of neutralizing it with that grounding effect, to me, it makes sense. Um, Another one that's here is ground with early morning sunshine. Start your day with nature. Drink a big glass of water, replenish yourself after a night's sleep, get hydrated, go for a walk, barefoot, ideally, if you can, and then just let that sun beam down on you, get that vitamin D. It's what a beautiful start to the day. I'm not particularly an early riser unless I'm on day shift and have to, but for those who are, it'd be a lovely, lovely morning thing. And even if you get up a little bit later and the sun's a little higher, you can still start your day that way. It doesn't have to be early morning sunshine. Stargazing. Some of these are more like just literally connecting with nature in different ways and remembering that we are nature and finding ways to connect back, because that in itself I find so grounding when we connect and really bring ourselves to the present moment and to be in awe of Mother Nature and what's around us. Stargazing is a beautiful way to do that. I love stargazing, especially when see a few shooting stars. It's one of my favorite things. You can go for a nature hunt. Um, if you have a bonfire, there's that element of fire, that warmth. Fire gazing is another way to ground and just it's meditative, right? You're sitting there, you're looking at the flame. I have my oops, it's too hot to pick up right now, but I have my grounded candle burning, and it's mesmerizing to just sit there and stare at a flame and just see how it moves and flickers. Um you can also make a grounding stake. Now, my dad made one of these for me. The grounding stake is still outside right now, and I forgot to grab it and bring it inside. But I can show you the other end of it. So what he did is if you're watching the video, you'll see what it is, but it's a wire. It has a pink like coating on the outside, so it's not just a bare wire, the whole thing. It's quite long. And what I do, there's two options. The one I'm not set up with, and I never did quite understand how he explained it, but I could just Google it and figure it out. But one end has a little clip, a metal clip, and it clips to the metal rod that I stick in the ground. So it's grounded in the earth. I clip this to it. And then on the other end, it has a few inches of exposed wire that I wrap around my ankle. And then at the end of the wire is another clip. I clip the clip essentially to itself, to the exposed wire as it's wrapped around my ankle, so that it's kind of like looped back on itself. So it's like a full circle around my ankle. And then I just sit there. I sit there in the grass. And it's really interesting because if I get really quiet and feel very grounded and in my body, I can it feels tingly on my ankle. Like I can feel a little bit of electricity. It's really, really, really cool. If there's a way that you can ground it into like a an indoor outlet. I don't know how to do that, so I'm not, I'm not going to give you instructions, especially because, yeah, you want to be really careful with that. But there is a way to do it indoor. So I could use the same wire and then ground it to an outlet and get some electricity that way. It'd be pretty, yeah, it would be pretty minor because it's, yeah, it's small. But I've never tried that. I just use it outside and I use the earth. Might sound weird to you, but check it out. Google grounding stake and see what that is. You could do stretching outside, just stretch in the grass, stretch outside, connect with the earth, ground through soil, gardening, like working with the earth is so grounding. Oh my gosh. The years that I've had that, especially that massive veggie garden, there's just something so grounding, so meditative, so relaxing to having your hands in the earth, even though most of the time I'd wear gloves because I'm pulling weeds. Some of them are spiky. Bugs freak me out, but there's still, my hands still get dirty. And there's just something so beautiful about that. Eating outside, grounding that way, having your feet in the grass while you eat. And the last one I wrote down here is stand under the shower. This is kind of, you can imagine it as how we would as like our more primitive selves or just natural selves standing under a waterfall and kind of like washing ourselves, cleansing ourselves. So imagine it that way when you're standing under the shower and it's the water's coming down and you close your eyes, make it an experience. Maybe turn the lights off and just that'll make it more, your senses will heighten, especially like the feeling and such, your hearing and stuff, everything will be a little heightened. So it can be very, very relaxing to just really feel that um water, like extra stimulation that way, but less stimulation visually because it's dark, right? And you can close your eyes. So that's another thing you can do to ground and just practices. There's many, many, many. You can Google it. Um, I think that's what I want to talk about today. Coming up, the next soul care hour is October 30th at 1 p.m. Eastern time. You can get the Zoom link from the Living on Lemonade group, and we meet soul care hours. It's a community, it's an opportunity to be in community with others and just, talk life. It's a little bit of, you can kind of see a bit of my mentoring style. Um, yeah, and we just kind of, we hold space for each other. If someone needs advice or just ideas bounced off, we can chat that way. I don't know if there's been any comments this evening, but if so, I cannot see them, so I'm sorry. I will check after. Also, as it turns out with this talk, I wasn't sure where I was going to go. Like I made notes, I made sure to kind of hit those topics, but I did go into meditation before this and kind of had some visuals and some understandings that I wanted to mention and kind of just like run away with a little bit, but we talked a lot about the soul, hey? And speaking of that, my next course is going to be a hybrid. I haven't officially launched it, so if you're watching or listening to this in a timely manner, you'll probably be one of the first to know that it's coming out officially. But I ran this course in the spring, and there was a small group. It was beautiful. It was exactly how it needed to be. It was a very safe space for me to teach in a way that I've never taught before. And we went like to an incredibly beautiful, inspiring, magical depths within the content, within the subject matter. And the meditations were like beyond words, with beauty and with healing. It's something I could have never anticipated. Most of so far, as when I do paid programs, the modules will include a meditation at the end, and it's just different themes. And anyway, this last one was like super, super deep. So what I'm going to do is, instead of releasing it just as a self-study, It's going to be run semi-live. It's a hybrid. So the modules will be released weekly, the pre-recorded. And then inside of that, there's 5 modules, so it'll be 5 weeks. Inside of that time, we'll do at least two group calls, maybe like a question Q&A, kind of one at the end as well to kind of bring it all together. But we're gonna do a couple group calls. And through those, because the first 2 meditations, the feedback that I got was do those live and then be able to kind of, debrief a little bit after, because they were very profound, for the women in there. So I'm going to do those separately and just kind of set the intention, hold the space. So if anyone's not able to, they know that like the energy and the intention is held for them when they're ready to listen. Also, if you need a little extra support, we could get on like a private one-on-one call. That can be an add-on. So that is coming down very shortly. I really need to sit down and be focused and create the content for that, officially release it. I have some graphics and stuff for it. However, at work, I've been training and just that takes a lot of my bandwidth for the evenings and stuff, right? So I just haven't yeah, I've just been like I need a little bit of quiet time and some space to really get that going. Um anyway, it's going to be beautiful if you are interested in diving deeper, diving uh inside of the human and getting to know your soul and what that looks like. It's kind of like an intuition one-on-one course, but there's a beautiful opportunity for some healing and just really getting curious and diving in deeper and seeing what's there and being held in beautiful space with beautiful intention and yeah, holding space for you. It was magical the first time. I know it's going to like I was encouraged by the women in it to run it again. They said you need to help more people with this. So I said, all right, I'll get it on the book. So it's going to start next month in November. I'm just finalizing the dates essentially, but it's coming down the pipe. So if you're looking to go deeper, if you feel that call and you want to be able to dive into your soul and get to know it a little bit, this is the perfect course for that. It's beautiful. It is kind of introductory, but we do dive deep in a couple things. So yeah, it's wonderful and magical. All right, friends, we're gonna leave it at that. I hope everyone's doing well. If you need a hug, I'm sending you virtual hugs and love and comfort, whatever you need. And yeah, I hope to see you around soon. And we will talk soon.